Hey everybody, this is Jason. I'm here with,
Liz Davidson from Beyond Solitaire.
and I'm Jason from the Shelf Stories YouTube channel, and we are together here doing a Semper Ludimus review. What does Semper Ludimus mean, Liz?
It means we always play, and we always are playing in every sense joking, playing games, and being goofballs.
Uh, and the game we are always playing for today is Flashpoint Fire Rescue. This is a cooperative game for one to, I believe it goes up to six players. It is tells a story of burning building and firefighters that are going in and rescuing the peoples. So I'm going to show you guys the base game. I'm going to show you guys the Tragic Events expansion, and I'm also going to show you some of the other expansions like the boards and the extra characters, and then we're going to get back and talk all about Flashpoint Fire Rescue. All right, here I have a game fully laid out of Flashpoint Fire Rescue. So as you can see, this is a house, and the house is on fire. The roof is on fire. And we're calling the paramedics and the firemen and all the emergency services to come put out the fire and rescue the peoples inside. So this is the fire. And, as you can see, these are doors. I just mentioned people. These are points of interest, so they may be a person, they may not be a person. So that's what's going on the board. So as I showed you, here are the firemen. This guy's obviously radioing for a little bit of help, which won't come until the next game. Only a two-player game, although this does go up to six. Okay, so it's an action point system where you're going to be spending your 4 actions that you get in a turn to do stuff. So, stuff will be like opening a door. So I do 1 AP, and then this would be another AP moving around the board. And then for 1 AP, I can turn fire into smoke. And for another AP, which is something I'm usually going to want to do, I can put out some fire. So that's a very, very basic turn. You're going to be doing a lot of that in this game. Some more specialist actions. So you notice these cubes over here. This represents deficiency in the structure of the building. So 1 cube isn't so bad, but if the game produces another cube, then it's basically just, quote unquote destroyed. The good thing being now this fireman can, because he can't go through the door, he'd have to go around, he can just walk through, and he can actually break through with a chop action, which costs 2 AP. I like that about the game because it's almost like you're terraforming, shaping the environment to your advantage. So you're gonna go over here, and you walk over. You try to save a person. Oh no! False alarm. Not sure what I heard over here. It must have just been a rumbling, a leaky pipe or something like that. Maybe you hear the furnace going on in my background as I'm taping this review. So then I'm going to try this one over here. Oh, look at that. It's a doggy. So I can spend AP to drag him towards the outside, and in the advanced game, you have to drag him towards the ambulance. So then when I do rescue POI, I roll the dice. You notice there's a grid system out here, and it kind of dictates where I put the new person. So I would go 6, 5, the new person. Not really sure why I didn't notice that person before, but there they are, or they're over here. And, because I'm not actually playing the game, I'll just show you, look at that, there's, a human being waiting to be rescued over there. Okay, so that's what you're doing. By the way, this is really important. Let's say that you are in a position where you can't use all of your actions. This game is a very cool system where you can actually bank the AP. You get 4 AP on a turn. If you use 2 of them, you can bank 2 and then use 6 AP in the next turn, creating a kind of elasticity in action economy, which I think is really cool. All right, so how does the fire combat you? The fire is very, very simple to execute. All you do is roll the dice, and you do the same thing that you do to place POI. So you would go 1, 3, and you would put smoke. Actually, it would go here. So you would put smoke here. Eventually, if it's adjacent to fire, it will turn it to fire and kind of do its thing. If I had rolled 2, 4, explosion. So then I would put fire in all the areas, and then a shockwave would kind of travel through fire, landing at a wall. breaking the structure, the integrity of the structure down even more. All right, so there's other stuff going on as well. So if you notice, there's very little tokens over here called hazmat. This is not the hazmat. I'll show you the hazmat in a second. This is the hotspot. The hotspot is representing things about the building that I don't know that cause the fire to spread and get worse. So if I were to roll 3-3 on my turn and trigger this explosion, I would have to roll again and then place a new hotspot wherever I rolled. Let's say I rolled 3-1, and then this would be, so whenever I rolled this space, more hotspots, so the fire is just going to keep on going and going. The game doesn't want you to put out the fire. That is not a victory condition. Victory condition is saving 7 of these folks. So losing is losing to many of these folks. So I think, I forget exactly, I think if you lose 7 of them or lose 5 of them, then you lose the game. Also, if you run out of the structural integrity tokens, you also lose the game as well. Very quickly, these are the hazmats. Not exactly sure. It's almost like this nice suburban house is a meth lab under the toilet over here. So this will cause extra explosions if this explodes as well. All right, so Flashpoint was made in 2011, so we're talking almost 10 years ago at this point. So we've had, it was about a huge chunk of time where people were saying, I love Flashpoint, I love how it works, but these hotspot tokens aren't doing it for me. They're too small, they're too fiddly. I go through the game and I forget to use them. So let's say I had rolled 6-3, you're in the heat of the moment, you forget that the hotspot is there, so you forget to do that second roll. About a year or so ago, the designers went back under the hood and gave us the Tragic Events deck. It works very simply. So you finish your turn, and it's usually going to say a card like the Fire Rages. So you advance the fire, do the same things that you always do, roll, place the fire, move on with your life. Same things. There's a whole bunch of these cards. However, you will eventually get to the Accelerate card, which does the thing with the hotspots, which is advance the fire twice. You put this card, this flare up, which is basically representing the fire worsening. So it's obviously, you can see it's a bunch of worse stuff that's happening. And now you have a very big event deck. So it definitely changes up gameplay. So the events are all sorts of different things. So then it introduces new types of people to save. So it's like, here's a heavier person who takes a little bit more effort in order to get the person out of the house. More hazards. Another explosion. All sorts of stuff can happen in the event deck. You also get a respite card, but that's only one card. The respite card amongst all the terrible events that can happen. So it really changes up gameplay. Really makes it more quote-unquote gamery experience that you don't have to track with your eyeballs. It's all there for you in the cards. Before we get back to me and Liz at the top of the table, I just wanted to show you some of the many expansions that are available. So like I said, the game did come out in 2011, and there was a series of expansions that came out shortly thereafter, 2012, 2013. I don't know if these are in technical print right now. They are gettable if you go to Amazon or some of the other places, so I wanted to just kind of show you some of the boards. And they are basically extra boards. So you're looking at the Extreme Danger expansion. This was a big box expansion, so you are firefighting in a warehouse. So there's a car over here. This thing will get full of blast units, and when it does get full, unfortunately, it'll go light the whole thing on fire. Here's another innovation: the fire door. Unlike the regular doors, which just kind of blow off the hinges and you don't see him again, if this door blows in a certain way, it'll jam, and you actually have to take the chop action in order to get through it. So it's kind of another little mechanical wrinkle reflecting different things that firefighters face. So that's the garage, and these are open, are double-sided. So as you see, this is a chemical lab, and inside the chemical lab there are these vats over here. And you can tell, basically the expansions are basically giving you 10,000 ways of putting things on fire. So let me show you some of the other boards. This is the second story expansion. So this is the first floor. This is the second floor, and you travel between the two. Not what you could do. There's a staircase that you can put down here, but also ladders. So you'll be able to put ladders down here, break into the window over here, and then the ladder will kind of lead you to the space over there. So that is second story. This is the urban structures expansion. So elevators. So you notice that there is no door on the outside. This represents a high rise. So there's rules about kind of going up and down the elevator to save the peoples. And man, I mean the hits just keep on coming with this game. So now we have the airplane, and the airplane introduces the mechanism of foam. So foam it's basically working like putting out a fire, but it kind of stays there and protects a certain space. So if there's a hazmat there, you can kind of like protect it with foam, make sure it doesn't blow up on fire. More strategic innovations. And one of my personal favorite expansions, I'm not really sure if this will fit on the camera as I've laid it out. Ooh, got fire all over the place. The submarine. Look at this. It's just a long, a long area where you have to kind of like navigate, and they have the fireproof doors and all that kind of stuff too. All right. So that was all of the boards that you get. You can also get a bunch of characters. So there's all sorts of characters. So the base game comes with characters like this. So there's about like 5 of them, or 5 or 6. I think 6. And then each of the expansions and separate ones also have different ones. Let me get to the star of the show, though. Oh, look at that little guy. He's the best. He has 12 AP. He can't do anything, but he can... He's a rescue dog. All he does, he can't put out fire. He can't open doors. He shoots in there. He rescues victims, and he pulls them out. I absolutely think this is one of the best player character integrations of a dog that I've ever seen in a board game. Isn't he the cutest? All right, we are back. Liz, it's so good to see you again.
It's good to see you too, and I'm actually really enjoying doing these co-reviews. I hope this is a thing.
This is we haven't gotten enough too much negativity so far. So no news is good news on that one. So we are absolutely so that was Flashpoint at the table. Let's just break right into it. So you're the one that recommended us that we cover this one, Liz. It's an older game.
Yes.
Why did you put that on the suggestion box to talk about?
So I put Flashpoint on the suggestion box because it's one of those games that I think people play a little bit when they see it on a solo list or something, and then maybe it kind of gets a little bit forgotten by our community. But then when you pull it back out, people are like, man, this is such a good game. And that's something that happens to me every time I've been playing other stuff for a while and I see Flashpoint. I'm like, maybe I'll try some Flashpoint. And I bring it out. I always really have a great time. And it's just one of those games that aged really well. You can play it with people who don't know how to play cooperative games at all, because there's like that family mode if you really must, and you can keep adding.
I don't know if I covered the family mode, but from the review, you remember the hotspot thing? You take the hotspots out for family mode and you just kind of like play a very basic cooperative game. It's good to play with someone just learning, a kid or a newbie or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a newbie mode with the training wheels, and it goes all the way up to blisteringly difficult. Let's add these really tough expansion boards. Let me try these different, characters that have different powers. It has a dog. I mean, I don't really see how you can go wrong.
I'll get to the dog. I will get to the dog. I'm so glad you mentioned that thing about difficulty scaling. I think Flashpoint, and Liz and I played a significant amount of games at this point, especially kind of on the solo end. And I think Flashpoint is the best game for difficulty scaling. Like, it goes all the way down to let's play with my 6-year-old kid to let's satisfy a bunch of seasoned gamers on a game night. I really think it does.
It goes all the way up to serious gamers can lose this badly.
Yeah,
which
right.
I really, I really appreciate that. And
By adding the boards, by and also by adding the hotspots slash tragic events deck. So we should probably talk about the tragic events decks in this context of how that deck turned this into a real game that gamers can enjoy.
yes, so I will just go ahead and say, I think people who think that Flashpoint Fire Rescue is decent but not amazing haven't played it with tragic events. I think that the tragic events expansion is the single best adjustment to that game of any of the other expansions, because it changes the way you play in a way that is, I think, less fiddly and annoying. I don't really like the hotspots as much as I like just pulling a card. And also it makes the game more exciting, and it just makes everything feel a little bit more natural. I really, really like that expansion. I will never play without it unless we're playing family mode.
I think the hotspot mechanism was there to solve a problem, and was there to introduce like that kind of like arced up difficulty, which a good cooperative game and a good game of firefighting should have, of like the fire just gets worse along. So they use that hotspot mechanism to solve a problem, but you often don't know they're there. Like if you're just playing, I forget to roll the hotspot against. It's so small.
Yeah.
And it is fiddly. It gets knocked around very easily. So like I think Tragic Events was specifically designed to kind of, okay, let's stop people complaining about the hotspots. What I will say is that I think the Tragic Events deck, well, I love it. As a gamer, I won't play without it, but I do play this game in therapy sometimes, and I have to play the family mode. I have to play the family mode, because that deck, the hotspot, I can almost get away with if I'm really tracking it, because it's just a piece. But like and I love the turn break. So like in a cooperative game, sometimes the turn break can take a long time. Read a card, set this up, more this, more that. In Flashpoint, it's like, okay, roll a die, more fire, done, go, your turn. And Tragic Events definitely inject something into that between turn phase that like gamers really tolerate, but maybe if you're showing this to other folks, and again, I use it in therapy with a lot of non-gamers, I'm not doing that. I just want to kind of get to the action.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I mean, if you're wanting to take something like Flashpoint and you're like, oh, I think that's a good starter game, but maybe, it hasn't kept up with my growing interest in the hobby, I think the Tragic Events expansion is the expansion that fixes that. And, it's what makes, for me, Flashpoint Fire Rescue, it's a game that I've had a years-long relationship with at this point. And it's just continuing. Like, there aren't always games like that. A lot of games, we're game reviewers. Like, I get a game, I play it a couple times. No, I mean, more than a couple. You know what I'm saying? Like, I play it enough to really get a sense of it, and then I'm like, and like, I just move on, trade it off, get something else. But Flashpoint, man, I'm never giving that game away, ever. Like, it's a permanent fixture on my shelf.
It was my third cooperative game ever. Pandemic was my first. People know what I feel about Pandemic. Zombicide was my second, and you're not seeing that. Flashpoint was my third. So we're talking a very long history with this, and because of the boards and because of all sorts of stuff. And we've talked about like a lot of the strategy of it, like classic cooperative fare, but I think the Tragic Events adds that AI element that makes this interesting, makes the fire more interesting of an opponent. Thematically, this game is a home run. Like I think
agree.
The sense of fire, it does so much more than the disease cubes or some other things that you have in a cooperative game. Like the fire just feels so well realized. The smoke becomes fire. The fire causes explosions. The walls collapsing. The fact that you can chop. Like you could chop the wall to get to where you're going to go, but it also costs you, resource, and the building might collapse. So like so much of the thematic stuff is so good. And I shorted you on this one, but I'm going to come back to it. I don't think this game would be as well regarded for me if it wasn't for that dog.
Right. So the other thing, I'm glad that you brought up the theme though, because the other thing that is true is that it is really hard to find good kind of, I feel like a lot of cooperative games are more fantastical or a little bit more like I don't know any other really solid games about fighting fires. And yet that's such a popular and accessible theme for the vast majority of people. I mean, who doesn't want to be a firefighter rescue? Like who didn't have a fire helmet when they were a kid, or, be fascinated with the Dalmatian at the fire station. And I think that
There's
that
definitely a
Flashpoint
couple
taps into
out
that.
there. There's definitely a couple out there about firefighting. I think of the last one was Hot Shots a couple years ago.
Yeah,
They've tried it. People have tried firefighting and they've tried different permutations of it. This one does it the best.
I agree. Yeah, this is the one that stuck.
Mm-hmm. Dog. We have to talk about dog.
Dog.
Dog. Why is the dog so cool? Okay, so games struggle to integrate dogs. Like people love their dogs, so but the problem is how do you integrate a dog into a game? So like you think of like Dead of Winter. Dead of Winter has a playable dog character, but it's not really. It's just like a weenie human. So, but in
Yeah.
this game, they said, okay, you have 12 actions, but you can't do anything, right? You can't open doors, you can't put out fire. You're a dog, but you can run like heck, and your literal job in life is to save people. And that's all the dog does. And like I will often have games where I'm playing with non-players where we have like, you know, the players, but then we have a third character that's just the dog, and like any of us can do it, and we just like, okay, dog. Now it complements so well with everything because it works so differently and it's so thematic. It is the best integrated dog. And it's, to be clear, guys, I think I don't know if I mentioned this. It is a separate thing you have to buy. I think it's called Veteran and Rescue Dog.
That's correct. Yeah.
But absolutely, if you're gonna play this game, seek that little promo thing out. It's so good.
Yes. So this takes me to the one thing that I would complain, I guess, about with Flashpoint. So in order to get the most complete game experience, you have to buy a lot of the game. And because the game is older, it's aging, it's harder to get everything. Like you can still very easily get the base game. But if you want everything for Flashpoint, it's getting to the point where it's not always super easy to snap everything up.
You can get the Tragic Events deck too. Action Phase does have that. So those two things you can get pretty easily. But the extra characters, the extra boards, and that Veteran, like you kind of have to Amazon it or maybe even eBay it. You know, like that's gets a little bit rough. I'm not exactly sure why Action Phase doesn't just like keep everything in stock, but
yeah. And so the only
Indie boards
caveat
are
that I
fine,
would give is that, I mean, the base game with Tragic Events, I think is enough to have a really great time. But if you really want the whole thing and you're a completionist, you might end up frustrated at times.
Right. So, I mean, final thoughts time. I think you getting the sense that, like, you know, if that's the biggest thing that we're complaining about with this game's availability, it's not available enough. You know exactly where we are going with this review. So I think, Liz, we're on the same page. We are going to give this one a 9 out of 10 seal of excellence. There you go. You check that out.
Ditch the new hotness. Go get this old game about firefighters. You won't regret it.
Anything else we have to talk about, Liz? Or I think we cover all the bases.
No, we just wanted to spend some time together showing love to a game that we have enjoyed and talked about enjoying for years, and it deserved the treatment.
Absolutely. So this was Jason. A pleasure to talk to you, Liz.
Always a pleasure to talk to you too.
And you have enjoyed, hopefully you've enjoyed, another Semper Ludimus review. Later, everybody.
Happy gaming.